Oh, leave it. For this project, you will need the following: 1 cup of flour, half a cup of salt, half a cup of water, aluminum foil, and an oven to bake at 250 degrees for 1 hour. For the previous project, the relief tile, I taught you how to mix your dough. If you don't remember, here's a review. Mix the salt and the flour first, then you add the water in. Wedge it and mix it until you get the right consistency that doesn't stick to the table or your hands. If you need another refresher, go ahead and go back to the previous video. If you have extra dough, this is what you need to do. Take the dough out of your bag. You might have to add a little bit more flour to get the right consistency. Because of the moisture in the bag, your dough might be a little stickier than when you put it in the bag. You want to add a little salt for a stiffer texture. Wedge it and make sure it doesn't stick to the table or your hands. Alright, today I will be making a turtle. I do have a turtle in front of me as a reference, which is nice so I can see all the details. You are welcome to use my examples, or you can create your own animal and that will be up to you. One of the techniques that a lot of sculptors would use is aluminum foil, and that can be a permanent armature inside the clay to give a ball shape or any shape that's needed. Here I'm using aluminum. I'm just going to wrap it tightly to a teardrop shape. This kind of gives the body of the turtle. I'll make sure that it's tight and it's not bulking out in other areas. I also recommend adding another layer of the aluminum so that kind of wraps it and you have that shape that you want. Alright, so I have my shape here, and there's that teardrop shape that I'm looking for. Okay, go ahead and grab your dough. If you notice, what I'm doing here is I'm adding extra flour just on the side, because as you are sculpting, you will notice that the dough will be sticking into your hands. So the best way to get rid of that is adding a little flour, mixing it, and that won't stick to your hands. This way, it's so much easier for you to sculpt. I'll flatten my piece out, and I'm just going to use the dough here and just wrap around my armature. Press it down. Again, if it breaks, that's okay. You can always add a little flour, kind of touch it up, cover that part up. Pat around it. You don't have to cover the bottom of your turtle. If you want to, you can. Again, as you're sculpting, it's always nice to have the extra flour on the side. If you want to smooth it out, touch it up with the flour, and you should totally be fine. If you're working with whole wheat flour or corn flour, you will notice that it will crack. If you like that texture, keep it. I find that using the all-purpose white flour to be the best after trying a few. But again, use what you have around there. What I forgot to mention before is to lay out this aluminum foil on the bottom so it's easy to carry once you are done with your project. Alright, for my next step, I'm going to go ahead and make the head of the turtle. Using the aluminum foil, I'll kind of make it into a teardrop shape, but it angles a little bit so the head looks like it's sticking out of the shell. Get more dough, again add a little bit of flour so it doesn't get too sticky, and you want to drape that over the head. You can press it down, tuck it underneath. You can also tuck it or press until you can feel that aluminum armature underneath. That's when you have the shape that you want. Again, to cover up all the lines, you can always add more flour so it doesn't get too sticky and it's easy to work with. For the flippers, I'm going to get extra aluminum here. I'll flatten it because the flippers are pretty flat. It doesn't have that hump that the shell or the body of the turtle has. Go ahead and stick that into the armature. You can do on both sides if you want to. I'm going to do something a little different to show you. One has the aluminum armature and the other one doesn't. Same method as the head. Go ahead and get your dough, drape it over the armature or that aluminum foil, and continue the same process until you are done. For the shell of the turtle, I'm going to get extra dough. I'll flatten the piece and drape that over the body, making sure that it overlaps the flippers. The outside part of the shell is called a marginal scute, and I'm going to get dough here. I'll roll it or using the coil technique. You want to elongate your coil so it drapes all around instead of making multiple ones. Place it on the outside of the shell, and again you can always blend by adding a little bit of flour. I'll use my butter knife to kind of darken the outline. You can always tuck in the dough, the extra dough that you have that's sticking out with the butter knife, and I'll kind of clean it up so it looks a little neater. I'll section the marginal scutes by adding lines on them. Again, pressing it lightly. Now let's add designs on the shell. If you don't have a reference in front of you, I would look up images online to make sure that you get the patterns correctly. Remember, it's organic, so there shouldn't be any straight lines. I would section off to 5 hexagon vertically, so you have that, and then extend your lines towards the outside of the shell. And your last step is to add textures on the flippers, and then you should be all done.